Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly, and I'm here with Michael Tsai. I'm really excited to introduce Michael. He is a college admissions consultant, and he helps students to get into their dream university and to have the most successful university experience. So today, Michael and I will be sharing a few questions about his college admissions experience and what he can offer the students here at Galileo as well. Welcome, Michael. Thanks so much for joining me.
Glad to be here, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks so much. So let's start off with the first question. What do you recommend for families who are considering college or have decided that they want to go to university? And what can they do to prepare to make this a really successful experience for their students?
Well, I think whether a family's decided on college or not, it all begins with the same place, taking a real deep inventory with soul-searching questions to understand what the family's values and priorities are and what the student's values and priorities are. Sometimes a student has a pretty good idea of what they want to do. Sometimes they don't. And if they don't, we want to help them get to a strong understanding of where they want to be in 5 or 10 years. That's looking at what do you want to learn? What sort of career do you want to develop? What sort of creative efforts you want to apply yourself towards? And from there, we can decide what college is going to be a good fit for that, and then devise a strategy for the middle school and high school years about getting into that college.
So it starts very early. What is the recommended age of a student to even start considering these types of questions?
Honestly, the earlier the better. I find generally middle school is a good time to start. High school is less ideal. It's not too late, but my own kids, I would start them in elementary school because I feel like young kids, that's when the curiosity is at a maximum in life. A lot of the people who have accomplished great things in their life, they found a passion at a young age and kept just doubling down on that.
That's a really interesting insight. Yeah. And so what about those who haven't found their passion earlier in life and haven't made that decision on their path? How can you assist them in making this big life-changing decision?
Well, that really begins with guided exploration and being really smart and strategic about it. For example, if a student has already tried certain things and decided they don't like them, I could say, hey, let's try something else. One thing I like is something I'll call the whirlpool method, where maybe you start at the top of the whirlpool and you take a student in a cycle around all these different fields of possible interest, and they'll try a little bit of everything and they say, hey, do I like this? No. Do I like this? No. Oh, hey, I like this. Let's move on. And then we kind of cycle to the next level of the whirlpool and keep going down and drilling deeper and deeper.
Yeah, it's all about trying lots and lots of different things. And it's a really good experiment to know what they don't want to continue to do and where they can focus their energy.
Right. Or certain things where they're not averse to it. There's certain related subjects. Like you look at, say, Netflix. Certain companies have pioneered this idea of a recommendation engine, or Spotify, where these technology companies said, hey, based on you express some interest in this movie or music, well, based on this, you might also like this. And I would say we can apply a similar concept to learning. Like if I find a student who is really into math, you can say, well, related to math, here's these other things you could be doing, like robotics.
Yes, we need that algorithm.
Right, you jump across various nodes and pretty soon the student will be like, hey, wow, I like this. Or I didn't even know this existed, but this was what I wanted all along. One story I really love actually was some years ago, there was just a regular small town woman who became the world's protein folding champion. Now because there was a new, right, exactly what? Now there was an obscure field of research requiring protein folding. Now the biotech researchers doing it created a supercomputer, and they outsourced the protein folding puzzles to just random people logging on the internet who could try folding proteins together. So they crowdsourced it, and this one woman with a pretty regular job and no background in sort of biological sciences became a champion protein folder. It turned out she was really good at solving the protein folding puzzles. Now, I think a lot of kids out there have these undiscovered talents that could be applied to a field that maybe they don't even know exists right now, or better yet, a field that doesn't exist today, but it will exist 15 years from now when these kids have graduated from college. And our job here is to prepare these kids for that future so they can really hit the ground running.
I mean, you definitely touch a soft spot for me, and I'm sure for many parents watching as well, that, there were so many unknown things that we discovered as we grew up, like, hey, that's a job, or hey, I can do that. I mean, especially when I was in university. So for the students at Galileo, and for the students that you've worked with in the past, what is like one of the biggest challenges, and how can you help them over these challenges to get them to make this decision that they need?
Well, frankly, I'm real excited working with Galileo, because traditionally I've worked with a lot of public school students, and a lot of that conversation with us family ends up being, oh, the public school requires this and requires that, and it's a very prescriptive system. Or we're planning for college courses and they say, oh, well, there's all these general education requirements about stuff that I don't really like, or honestly, I don't really even care about. And we still need to get it out of the way. And unfortunately, I do have to help them work with it. I've been in the same place myself as a high school student. Sometimes I'd be assigned a project or a final exam, and I'd be kind of thinking to myself, gosh, I can't really see myself using this in life ever at all. I'm just going to memorize this for the exam and promptly forget it afterwards. And frankly, I think that's such a terrible waste of mental resources. I've been there, my fellow students have been there, and the students I teach have ended up in that place. I feel like the future of education is allowing more flexibility and creativity, and allowing families to design what they want to learn and self-study. Our current public education system dates back to the factory model of the 1800s, when employers were trying to create an assembly line system to train kids to become factory workers following very specific instructions.
So as a college admissions consultant, is it your goal to get people to go to college, or just to help them make that choice? What if they decide not to go?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Naturally, I think a lot of people do decide they want to go to college. I think it's certainly a good advantage for a lot of people, but I don't want to be the one prescribing, saying, hey, everyone needs to go to college. I don't think that's necessarily true. And
Yeah.
not going to college doesn't mean you can't have a great life and a great career afterwards.
Yeah. Great.
And for me, if I can help a family and a student really fulfill their life, actualize, that's a success. Because again, on the flip side of that, right, I've seen other students where they got perfect SAT, they got into Stanford for pre-med, and their family was ecstatic. They're like, oh, my son got into Stanford, he's going to be a doctor, oh my gosh, right? And for these Asian American families, that was their dream come true. But then I talked to the actual student at Stanford, and they were miserable. They were like, I never wanted to be a doctor, I never wanted to cram for the SATs, my family just crammed this and forced this on me since the day I was born. And now that I'm in college, for the first time in my life, I'm figuring out what I want to do for myself. And guess what? I really don't want to be a doctor. And, the parents were appalled, but I'm thinking to myself, maybe if you had listened to your kid a little and created that space for that conversation.
Yeah. So it's going back to like the first question, like finding out your family values and aspirations for everyone involved, and helping them align with that as early as possible is really important. Yeah, and me too. I just went through the path that I thought was the only path, right? To go to university and to get the piece of paper. And well, that was the end line, that was very successful, or seen as success at that time. So now that it's 2021, is college the only answer? And are there, a lot of great opportunities for students who don't want to go to university? And what do those look like? How can we help students who don't want to go to college?
Well, I think it really comes with a life design. One of my great idols in the world of tech is actually Peter Thiel. He was the founder of PayPal and one of the early investors in Facebook. And some years ago, he launched his thing called the 20 Under 20 Fellowship, where he was saying to 20 very talented people under the age of 20, he thought, you know what, you can make better use of your talents outside of college. I'm going to give you a scholarship of $100,000 to do whatever you want, as long as you drop out of college. And a lot of those students ended up going for that and doing self-study, creating their own projects based on their passion and their own world-class talent. And I think that's really the beginning, not the end, because I think that program is only in its early iterations, and we're going to see more programs along that vein outside of the traditional college path.
Right. We were talking before we hit record as well about MOOCs and the availability for MIT courses online. Is it possible to piecemeal your own certification together without getting the piece of paper and learn the same content?
I think that's entirely possible. One of the critics of MOOCs, they say, oh, well, you look at the completion rate for these courses, it's really low, and students drop off after the first few chapters. While that may be true, I think that's an easy problem to solve. We just need more guidance, a more programmatic approach. Because what happens is when students look at all the different MOOCs online, they're like, wow, so much information. How do I process it all? Where do I start? And guess what? Welcome to life. It's the information superhighway, and part of teaching students to thrive in the 2020s world is how to navigate this glut of information that we're going to get thrown at us every single day for the rest of our lives in the digital age, and being a really smart consumer of information to say, hey, this looks like low quality information, I'm not going to deal with it, or say, hey, I want to find out about a certain thing. Where do I look for high quality information about how to solve this problem? And that's really the hacker mentality. The future of the 2020s and beyond is not rote memorization from a textbook. Our young pioneers are going into a world where no textbook has been written yet. They're going to be the ones writing the textbook once they figure out the hard problems.
Do you think they'll actually write physical textbooks? I don't know. That seems
maybe they'll write a digital textbook, and
exactly.
I think the future is going to be easier than ever to create a textbook. A student is just going to say all this stuff, maybe like what we're recording right now. Yeah. And in the future, some AI algorithm is going to be so sophisticated that it can ingest whatever recording we produce pretty spontaneously and kind of derive what sort of theses and ideas that we're giving out from what we have inside here. Like, have you seen what's going on with a GPT-3, the machine learning chatbot, where you can feed this machine learning program so much writings from a given famous author, and then this machine will get an idea of the writing style of the author and then produce new text as if it was written by the author.
Yes. So, I've seen a bit of that. It's scary.
We're only scratching the surface of that. I mean, it was pretty amazing when it came out, but I think future iterations of it, we can almost create like digital representations of us that will say things that are maybe 90% similar to what we would say in real life.
And how do we get students prepared for that world? That's what we're here to help them with. So it's like people like you that are here to help the families and to help them make that big decision. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Lots of really good information here to share with our families and for teens and students that are interested in making this choice. Do you have any lasting advice for someone who thinks, this is a very hard choice to make, and what kind of guidance can you leave for them?
Well, I would say we always want to learn from the lessons of history and see what's worked in the past, but we don't want to fall into the mental trap of trying to win the last war or fight the previous war. The future does contain a lot of unknowns, and we need to head into it with a strong set of principles that are time-tested, but also be open to new ideas and new possibilities that are true in the 2020s that were not true before.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I look forward to sharing this interview with our families and seeing more of you here at Galileo. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Very excited for this journey.